Just walk away. Just walk away, and there will be an end to the horror.
All right, go.
So I'm writing a very big report on China, Cambodia business interests, right? Economic activity, but that's spun off, and I'm doing a shorter piece just on the Cambodian real estate bubble, and so I'm just finishing it up today.
But from what I can see is that it is not Khmer that are buying any of these properties.
No, but it's actually so. One of my points of why I think the bubble is not as serious as what people think is that most of the demand is coming from China, and I don't believe the demand is going to change. The fundamentals of why Chinese people are buying these things is not going to change, which is basically Chinese economy is slowing down tremendously. The government, so people want to invest outside of China. The RMB is being devalued. Some people want to move their money out of RMB. They want to put it in dollars. The easiest way to do that is to invest in anything in Cambodia because it's dollar denominated.
Why can't they just convert their own money while they're in China?
Well, then you're going to pay conversion fees. You're only allowed to convert so much money at a time.
Okay.
And you're not allowed to take it out of the country. So, well, when I say you're not allowed, I mean you're strictly limited on how much you're allowed to take and when and how. And then plus you're paying fees and things on it. So
how are they able to do it with as far as real estate goes from there? Isn't it still moving money outside of China? Well, it is, but a lot of the money that they invest outside of China is that money may never have been declared to the tax authorities in China, but if they went in and converted it to dollars in China, that would create a paper trail basically, and they would have to pay taxes on it. What about Koreans and Singaporeans and people like that are investing here? Or are they just at much a smaller scale? Do you think they're trying to do the same thing the Chinese are doing? Well, I'm not an expert on that. I'm an expert on China, but from what I understand, China is the largest purchaser of the condominiums, and that's really all I'm looking at right now. And I understand that one of the larger construction. One of the larger countries involved in construction was Korea, but that's separate. So if we look at Chinese construction in Cambodia, what you've got is either state-owned companies doing construction in Cambodia, or allegedly private companies, but that have extremely close ties to the state doing construction here. The financing is done through state-owned banks. The availability of natural resources is also, the allocation of natural resources also done by the state, controlled by the state. So all of the construction that you see is going to be very closely tied to the Chinese economy, and usually if the Chinese economy goes down, you're going to expect to see that construction investment go down. But the condo purchases is being done by individuals, not by... Is it, how difficult is it for a Chinese middle class to, let's say, leave China and do these type of things? Is it? You mean just fly here and buy a condo? Right. Oh, now it's easy. Now people are allowed to have a passport. They're allowed to come and go. Okay. Particularly if they're from Tier 1 cities, which also So China has tiers of cities, and then your rights as a Chinese citizen are very closely tied to which city you are officially registered to. If you're registered in Shanghai or Beijing, you basically can do almost anything you want. You can very easily get your passport. You can leave the country. You can go but if you're from an obscure village somewhere, it gets more difficult to get your passport. It gets more difficult to leave the country. It gets very difficult to go to Hong Kong. Impossible maybe to go to Taiwan. So there is that. But the people that would be investing are going to be, a lot of them are going to be from Beijing and Shanghai, or they're going to be wealthier anyway. Wealthier people are always going to have sort of easier access outside the country. Let's say they buy one of these condos, they invest in it, and what is the idea? It's just an easy thing to convert into U.S. dollars? Well, first of all, when you buy the condo, so it's denominated in U.S. dollars, so instantly, and you don't have to have U.S. dollars to buy it in Cambodia. You could arrive here with yuan, which is what they would do. You can convert it, or now a lot of transactions in Cambodia are actually being done in yuan.
So you would use your yuan to buy this house. Even if you converted it, you're not paying conversion fees here. You have U.S. dollars. You're buying the property. Property's denotated in U.S. dollars. If the yuan devalues, you're protected from valuation risk of the yuan because your money's already in dollars. The appreciation on that property, or later if you sell it and you get a profit, that's all in U.S. dollars, and you've earned it outside of China. There may also be tax benefits to that. There may be concealment benefits to that maybe they don't declare it in China.
Right.
But the big thing just being it's all in U.S. dollars.
What about as far as one reason why I don't think there would be a bubble is because it's all done in cash. There's no mortgages on these things.
Yeah.
So when people talk about a bubble in Cambodia, I tell them no, because it's all done in cash. There's no mortgage crisis or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah, technically to be a bubble, there has to be leverage involved, and these homes are not being leveraged. And so I've been doing some research, and when I'm hearing things about loans, what they're talking about is either loans for...
Give me cafe taco more than. Go on.
So they're either talking about loans for construction, which is unrelated, or they're talking about the inavailability of home loans to Khmers. So right now, the main interest in purchasing these things is from Chinese people, right? And they're sitting on them. And what I believe is that the fundamentals of why Chinese people want to buy them, that's not going to change. There's no change to that. The other underlying fundamentals of just the general Cambodian economy keeps growing at a rate of 6 to 7%. That's a real rate, 6 to 7, and those are real numbers. Whereas with the Chinese numbers, we don't always know if they're exactly true, and then we know that if you devalue if you allow a plausible error margin in the Chinese government's reporting of their growth rate, it's probably down to like 5% or 4.5%. And then couple that with devalued currency, people are losing their money by keeping it in China. So there's lots of reasons to invest in Cambodia. Another thing is 75% of the Cambodian population is under the age of 35.
Right.
Which means there will be continued interest in moving companies here, factories, manufacturing. Plus there's young people. Anytime you have young people, you can have more innovation, you can have more,
okay, but
the future's good.
I agree with you, but the problem is you also have a bit of a brain drain where the best and most talented Khmers are leaving Cambodia, and I think the same goes for China also.
You know what, you have brain drain everywhere, but the brain drain that's facing Cambodia and China is nothing compared to the brain drain that faces, for example, Nigeria, where everyone speaks English, or Philippines. Everybody already speaks English. So every college graduate instantly, is essentially qualified to leave, So you don't get that as much. I mean, there's definitely a brain drain here, but not nearly on that scale. And the other thing is that the Cambodian degrees aren't as widely accepted overseas. So basically the brain drain is probably, and I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I'm going to guess it's a lot of Khmers that study abroad don't come back.
Well, my neighbor downstairs, he's studying in Hanoi. His father works for the government. He's never going to come back.
Well, yeah, they study abroad, they may not come back.
Right.
But there's tons of universities here in the country, and the kids graduate, and they stay here. And the real problem right now is that there's not enough tertiary sector jobs.
Well, I think the job market in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a major concern in Cambodia. You have so many new kids getting onto the job market.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of similarities between the U.S., my generation, the millennials, sitting home, staying home with mommy and daddy, and the same thing is happening here where they're just living off of mommy and daddy's cash and not really going out and doing their own thing and able to generate an income for themselves.
Definitely a shortage of tertiary jobs at the moment, tertiary sector jobs at the moment. But again, you're getting Khmers that are getting more and more training, higher and higher levels of education, more foreign language fluency, especially Chinese is the fastest growing language here. So there's definitely impetus for companies to open here and provide jobs to them. And then the other hope is that because the country is, the financial center is so concentrated in Phnom Penh, condos are going to become more important and more appealing to locals than they are now. As jobs develop here, you're going to get more and more young people, working in the city or moving to the city. They're not going to be living with their relatives, not going to be living with their parents. They're going to need somewhere to live. Condos are going to begin to become interesting for the local population.
Right, but the condo market is not what the Khmers want. Khmers want, similar to what the U.S. has, is pretty much a single-family home. From what
but just like the U.S. though, it's going to become impossible. I mean, like the city's already full or over full of people. It's very difficult, So then you got to move further and further out. You're just gonna have it, like everywhere in the world. You can have young people that are going to say, I don't want to live 45 minutes out in a private home. I'd rather live in a nice apartment in town and live like Miranda.
Walking distance.
And live like Miranda and Samantha. So there will be. I mean, this is documented, right? This is growth. This interest in buying condos grows as the economic development progresses.
What do you think will be happening if more and more people are moving into city centers? They also predict Battambang will be another one that's going to be slated for development soon.
Sure.
Kampong Sam also, they're knocking everything down. What do you think will happen to the people of the countryside? Do you think they'll still be subsidized off the work of the families or the family members working in Phnom Penh and sending the money back into the countryside?
Sure. That won't change. That won't change.
For the next decades.
Yeah. That's not going to change. Yeah, that's just part of the culture.
Eventually it will, but we will be very old of that.
What about now? What do you see any similarities between the Chinese real estate bubble, where a lot of these Chinese middle class that bought the ghosts, all those ghost cities and what have you, that they've invested money into all these condos and no one has purchased them? And are there similarities between that and here?
Well, the city of Oros in Inner Mongolia that story has just been told and retold and over embellished, and I don't know that people really research and know the details of when they ask me that question. But
it's more than one. There's at least 5 or 6 of these major cities.
But every time I see a picture or anytime it's Oros, and basically, I don't know that these apartments were purchased by investors. I don't think they were. The issue there is that you've got the cities are being built by state-owned construction companies or construction companies that have close relationships with the state. They're borrowing from state-owned banks. They're allocated resources by state-owned companies, and a lot of this was job creation. It was government spending. It was stimulus. After the 2007, 2008, 2009, global financial crisis. So I don't know that there's a real problem that individual investors have bought condos in China and can't sell them. I don't know that that's actually a problem.
Okay. And what about, because as the condo market here, and even office space here, for all these new buildings that have gone up, the prices are astronomical.
Yeah.
My office is $700 or $800 a month, and it's a very, very small office. People that are paying upwards of around that price to rent a home. How will a 30-something-year-old Khmer, let's just say 5 years in the future, he's getting $700 or $800 a month, he still will not be able to afford such an apartment? Do you think they'll come down on the prices?
Well, the commercial sector, office buildings versus condos, because I'm only talking about condos right now. What happens in the commercial sector is different, but what I will say is rent versus sales price. One indicator that there is a bubble, or an indicator that's positive in supporting the idea that there may be a bubble, is that when the price of the condo exceeds the amount of money that you could charge for rent.
Right.
That means that there's a bubble. Okay. So in other words, if I buy this condo and rent it out, there's no way that the rent covers, my payments, or even if I'm paying cash, but just if I were to divide it out as if I were making payments, the rent is not enough to cover that. So that suggests that there's a bubble. So what happens there, though, is that eventually the market will always revert to what the market can bear.
Okay.
So the rents can never exceed what people can actually pay. So actually, rents are actually a better indicator of the health of the general economy than are real estate prices, because prices can go up for any number of reasons.
Okay, but we're dealing with that. That's great, because we're both from New York and we understand that concept. Here in Cambodia, I have my neighbor across the street. Now, its apartment is very similar to my apartment, and she refuses to come down on the price. The reason why she refuses to come down on the price is because what she sees my neighbor doing?
Right.
And she'll sit on that.
Yeah.
She's been waiting over a year to rent this place and refuses to give up on it. That is a general trend or a cultural thing in Cambodia.
If I may, my neighbor, the one who has a big building, I don't know, he's from an English-speaking country, so he was not exactly, but he's Khmer. And he has built a building with every story has 2 apartments, but the kitchen is in common. And to go from your bathroom to your room, you have to go in the common area.
Right, there's a lot, and there are a lot of apartments like that.
750 for this, and for the last 4 or 5 years it has been for rent, and the building has been empty, but he insists.
He insists.
This is a phenomenon I don't fully understand. That's here in Cambodia and in Thailand. I've seen the same thing.
No, that's unique. Nowhere else.
I even tried to buy an apartment. I tried to buy an apartment across the street from my hotel. 4 years ago, when I asked about it, it was $19,000. It's still unsold. And I sent a friend of mine over there. I sent a friend of mine over there with instructions to pay up to $22,000 for it, and the owner said no. Now it's $30,000.
Right.
I don't know what that's based on. Right?
But now I don't. Economists, financial advisors, I don't think they actually grasp this concept. So when you see reports on the job market or the economy in Phnom Penh, they leave out some major different factors that don't coincide with free trade and the free market because of the cultural difference.
Well, let's. But if we get back to the condos again, another point I'd like to make though is people. If you're living in the city and you drive past and you see all these empty condos, and so you assume that they haven't been sold, and it's not necessarily that they haven't been sold. Most of the Chinese investors intend to buy these apartments and not to move into them, and not even to rent them, because that's not what they're interested in. They're just interested in storing their money and then eventually collecting a profit at the end when they sell it. So, and if you look at Manhattan as another example, something like 20% of the apartments purchased by Chinese in Manhattan now are unoccupied.
Okay.
And this also homes even. They're even buying homes in the suburbs, big, huge homes in the suburbs. Nobody's living in them.
Is it in the United States, foreign nationals allowed to buy U.S. property?
Yes, of course.
Land also?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
In fact, before 9/11, you could enter the U.S. on a tourist visa, go and get a driver's license. Once you have a driver's license, unless you tried to get a job, that would be the only thing you couldn't do. Anything else, no one would ever ask you for a social security number. So with a driver's license, you could buy a gun, you could buy a house, you could do anything. I think you're even allowed to buy a business. You're just not allowed to work in a business on a tourist visa.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
And today, I mean, it's almost the same. I don't know that you're still able to buy a gun. I think you are though.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So Muhammad Jihad can go in.
Whoa, that's a different discussion.
Well, anyway, back to the conversation about the real estate here.
And opening a bank account. I'm sorry. Before 9/11, you used to be able to open a bank. That's something I think you can't do now on a tourist visa in the U.S.
How is you are?
I'm fairly certain you can't because you don't have a taxpayer ID.
You have now in the outskirts of Phnom Penh. There are a lot of these townhouses and these townhouse villages where it's a very large gated community. I'm talking big chunks of land where it's rows and rows and rows of all these same identical houses that are completely unoccupied. It will be one for every 10 occupied. There's right outside the city, over the Chongcheva Bridge. You have a lot of these, and they continue to build more and more of these.
Yes.
Yeah, that and again, I mean, it's outside of the area that I'm researching right now. I will say though that one of the companies I'm most likely going to do business with here, they're investing heavily in Takamau, and they just believe that these areas about, what is it, like 20 kilometers outside the city. Yeah, Takamau is about 10-20 kilometers outside the city, and there really is a theory. Almost everyone I talk to seems to believe the government's theory that they're building 10-20 kilometers outside the city, and the city is simply going to expand.
Right, that's what I see. But this whole build it and they will come. There's no businesses.
But there are. That's it. Companies are starting to open up. So I went out to Takamau, and first of all, there's the free trade zone. Have you been out there? So there's a free trade zone. It's completely full of companies, Chinese, Korean, Japanese companies.
Right.
And they have tons of employees. They also have foreign employees. So they need gated housing for those employees so that they don't have to commute every day. Then they need international schools for their kids. The Khmer employees that are working there are earning better than average salaries, so they want to spend money and you start seeing, you know what? It is growing. When they built it, and it came. And then the city, of course, the whole stretch of road from the city to that factory winds up developing because...
But, you know, I'm looking for another job, and I saw an ad, and it's a real estate agencies. They're looking for people who would like to actually promote this because there is, it seems, a demand, you know. I will apply, maybe they hire me, although it's not exactly my cup of tea.
But here's the other thing, though, is that the work ethic here and those type of, you know, the reason why many businesses, you know, Cambodia's ranked 153rd as far as, you know, ease of doing business. Right, and that I would imagine scares a lot of. It's a huge problem. And
that's a problem.
That has to do with I would say, the work ethic here, the unable to retain talent. I'll give you a great example. One of the Khmer companies I was working for, it was a subcontractor for mechanical and electrical. You know, doing contracts. So your subcontractor is what I was. He worked for another subcontractor, and he was the quickest rising star in the guy's company. And the owner of this business saw how good he was and says, "Listen, I want you to stay with me. I'll give you whatever salary you want," so on and so forth. He just packed up, opened his own subcontracting company, and started his own thing.
It's pretty common across Asia. I mean, China too. There's something in the culture of East Asia that people want to be the owner of the business. They want to be the director. My joke is I actually know people that took a position as the director of a company that made no money, rather than be, you know, an employee at a company that was actually paying him a salary.
But, I want to ask both of you now, because we speak about this. You know, I barge in the conversation, but in Qatar there is difficulties about ease of doing business, and yet we have about 8,000 French who live there and have a business, and it's very difficult because you must have a partner who is just a name.
Yeah, I know, and then they get a salary every month, and they just have to stamp your papers.
We have over 8,000
French. I know.
So I believe, is this really a break? Or people still will go despite the fact it's...
No, people will continue to go because the fundamentals are there. The thing is, you know, my background is stock market investing, and to me, I don't care about short-term fluctuations in the market. I only care about the long term.
If people go to Qatar, they will most likely come here because here it's much easier. So even though it's difficult.
Well, this is what I'm saying. That so if we want to look at a country, it has this problem, that problem, or the other problem. But what we need to look at mostly is what are the underlying fundamentals? Are the underlying fundamentals there? And the answer is yes. We've got a growth rate of 67% here, which is more than almost, you know, most countries in the world. You've got unlimited supply of young people and labor, and then you've got problems, right? And then you're gonna have to deal. You've got corruption. You've got this. You've got that.
With the most basic pillars of a functioning society or nation are not in Cambodia.
You mean rule of law?
The rule of law, hospitals, education,
hospitals will come.
And infrastructure.
Hospitals will come.
They are coming, actually.
Yeah, they're coming. They're coming.
Somalia is nearly a hospital.
Look at Vietnam. I mean, do you think Vietnam always had great French hospitals and American hospitals? No, it's like in the last 10 years because
the doctors are not going to want to be here because there's no one that has money to pay to go see a fucking doctor.
No, that's not true. It's not true. No, I mean, that's why you've got all over Thailand now, you've got some of the best private medical clinics all over Thailand. You know, Vietnam, like I said, I mean, you pay $180 to go to the French hospital in Hanoi.
Well,
$180
that's
to walk in the door.
Yeah, but what is true is wealthy Khmer tend to go to treated abroad.
They go to Saigon usually.
And there's enough wealthy Khmer now that plus the expats that it would support real hospitals, and they will open up. They will. People are getting more demanding here. People are getting more demanding. They know they can't trust
Cambodian doctors.
Yeah, and they put their foot down now, which they didn't before.
Well, also, the French, they invest a lot to have doctors here because then we import them, so to speak. But when they are in France, they have to redo.
Yes.
So, I mean, the French want Khmer doctors, but when they do come to France, we have to check what they have learned. So, trust is...
but there is no... Again, we have seriously no rule of law. And that, I think, is more of the crux of the issue why many people, or at least you know, I wouldn't say talented businessmen, but good philanthropists and entrepreneurs don't want to bother with this nation.
Well, but okay, those are all problems, right? But anywhere you go, you can have a problem. Okay, so we'll make that on the list of problems. But now let's look at alternatives. I have a factory in China. When I opened my factory, the average salary was $100 a month. Now the average salary is $600 a month.
Right.
Yes.
I can't keep my factory in China now.
Right.
I got to move. Where do I go? I want to go to Vietnam. Guess what? Vietnam's already priced themselves out of the market.
Right.
Vietnam had the shortest lived of any country of being the
pricing themselves
out. I mean,
out.
unbelievable. It took like 3 years. So where do I go?
Burma.
So basically now we're down to Burma or Cambodia are your two options. And the problem with Burma at the moment is that you have power outages, you don't have reliable internet, you don't have phones.
Rent is extremely high.
Yeah, things like this. Dual pricing started instantly, the dual pricing. And so guess what?
They're still far away.
You wind up back in Cambodia. Like you just start looking at a map. Like, where am I going to go? Thailand's under military rule. Thailand has made it clear they don't want foreign companies there. They don't want they're cracking down on visas. It's too difficult. Salaries are high.
What about Indonesia? It's a very popular area.
Indonesia is another option. Yeah.
But doesn't the whole with Indonesia, them being on islands, kind of make
There's
it
a lot of issues. They're on islands.
Logistical issues.
Logistically difficult, and I hate to, racially profile, but there is also, an Islamic issue, there, and, potential, whatever it is, whether it's terrorism or even just
right, people are skeptical of doing business with Muslims at the moment.
Yeah,
right.
so Indonesia has a lot of problems, but, if you're in Cambodia, at least you're on the continent. You could drive some of your stuff in a truck, over the border to sell in other countries if that was your goal.
Right.
You could fly it. You have lots of options. If you're in Indonesia, it's all boats and planes.
Okay, but here's the problem with also Cambodia. Now, going back 3 years ago, I spoke with a director of a garment factory, a UK-based garment factory. They just leased large swaths of land right outside the heart of Phnom Penh. They're going to start building factories. They're going to employ some 2,000 or 3,000 people. I go and I had a quote for him and so on and so forth. He said, all right, come back 6 months. We'll see where we're at as far as the construction goes and everything. I go back 6 months later. He tells me we're stopping everything. I go, what do you mean? He goes, with the unions and them demanding more and more money. Every time we give them a raise, 3 months later they want more. They're stopping it all. They're packing up.
That's here. China's the same though. The Chinese workers want a raise about every 3 to 6 months. They expect a raise and a promotion. I mean, it's just
okay, but the Chinese are a little bit more when it comes to money. They get it. You have to perform to get paid. In Cambodia, they kind of lack this concept that you have to know you have to work.
But again, all you're describing is problems. That's it. I mean, you're just describing. You're not.
That's sort of the upswing.
You're not telling me, okay, so we have to move our factory to Vietnam. You're saying to me, if you move to Cambodia, these are things you have to deal with, and you do. Right. There's lots of things. And there's lots of projects. The Dutch were building the railroad, and then literally every night, the entire construction of that day was stolen for like 2 years.
I understand you have a factory, right?
Yeah.
But as the owner of factory, would you not feel safer in Vietnam than here? About your investment?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know. Because and again, I'm not an expert.
Right. I would imagine there is corruption, but there's rule of law, and it's very strict in Vietnam.
It's regulated. Yes, we have corruption in Vietnam, but it seems that...
I don't know. Vietnam is actually also very, very high on the list of corruption. Transparency International's Index of Corruption.
We spoke about the same talk with a friend of Poland, and actually, when Polish companies move out of Poland, the number one country they elect is Vietnam.
Yeah, but that's also because they have a long relationship with Vietnam. Poland is, during the communist era. During the communist era, you had Polish and Czechoslovakian companies doing business with Vietnam. So, and also the Czechoslovakia has the largest Vietnamese population in Europe, I believe.
In Europe, France number 1, Germany number 2, and actually Poland number 3. They have 70,000 Vietnamese. Okay,
and then Czechoslovakia, though, where you still got, it's one of the few countries where you still have rotations of Vietnamese workers going to Czech Republic. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, still. But so I mean, for me, as far as investing goes, if you can gamble on the Cambodian economy, 6 to 7%, it's more than you get anywhere else. The other issue is what I'm really looking into now is looking at mathematical fundamentals that I absolutely have to believe there's opportunities for arbitrage here because the exchange rate between the real and the dollar is pegged. It essentially never changes. The fluctuation is
Very
about
small.
100 to 130 real. And this is over a period, and I've been tracking Cambodia for 12 years. So 12 years, I mean, and it's not that 12 years later it's 130 higher. It's that the fluctuation has always been 130. It's not always higher than what it was 12 years ago. So I have to believe that there's arbitrage opportunities here. The other thing is that there's a derivatives market in Cambodia that I'm really looking into, and I absolutely have to believe that there's holes in. There's got to be holes that allow opportunities for arbitrage. So those are the kind of things I'm looking at.
At your factory, what does it produce?
No, I don't have
He
a
doesn't
factory.
have a factory.
No, I meant if I have a factory, blah, blah, blah. I was giving an example.
Back to investing in Cambodia. Now, the amount of again, I'm telling you negatives again. I have an American friend. He invested $500,000 in redoing a whole street corner, and he is now in the hole. He has to keep going back and forth to court because of one person that lives on the lower floor that owns the ground floor. Now he's doing the top floor, and again, him as an outsider coming in and doing business in Cambodia, regardless of it being positive for the community, they're looking to just take him to the cleaners.
Yeah, but what do you think happens in Thailand? What do you think happens in Vietnam? I mean, it's
the same anywhere.
Can I tell you a story?
Go ahead.
A guy who worked with me, I tell you, he bought an apartment too. And the thing is, you have the first floor, the middle, and a shack above. And he bought in the middle for $70,000. And 3 months later, he had a knock on the door. The police, they come to check, and they told him, "Oh, sir, you cannot stay," because meanwhile, they dismantled the shack, and they told him, "You cannot own the top floor." And he panicked, he could not find someone to buy it, he put it on his girlfriend's name, and he was kicked out. I helped him to move out.
This is in Cambodia.
Here in Phnom Penh.
Right. Now let's talk on a bigger scale. In Stung Treng, a Chinese mineral company leased a plot of land for 60, 70 years, tens of millions of dollars. They bring all the equipment from China to start mining. As soon as they started finding what they found, the government came right in. Thank you for finding all this stuff for us. Now please leave.
But I agree. All these stories are true, and these are all things that have to be taken into consideration. So what we do in finance, when I'm going to invest, and I say I'm expecting to get 18% return on this investment, but I know that there's this 60% chance I'm going to run into problems.
Right.
So I apply discount rate to my expected returns. So it's the same way with an investment here.
Okay.
So if I expected a 60% problem on an 18% investment, I'm going to subtract, what does that work out to? 8. I'm going to subtract 8.4% from my expected returns, and then I'll say, oh, is that still attractive to me? Yes, it is, so I go for it.
Before moving here, actually no, it was shortly after moving here, and you worked on Wall Street, and I have 2 relatives that also work on Wall Street. And they told me as far as bringing money here and doing business in Cambodia, he goes, you have to have experience coming into here. For any type of foreign national that wants to do business in a third world developing nation, they have to have a nice resume under their belt where they've done it before and they know what they're going to get themselves into. And I think a lot of the expats that are living in this region of the world have, they have grandeur ideas, like, oh, I can do this, that, and the other. Look how great it is here, and they have no experience prior to opening a business here.
Cambodians have an expression that I love. It's in Cambodian they say it's like a frog at the bottom of a well. If you're at the frog at the bottom of the well, the only thing you can see is the walls of the well. You can't see the world, the big world. So you think you're the biggest, you jump the highest, you're everything. So you have to keep in mind that all the stories you're telling me, these are individuals. As soon as you put a name on it, it's an individual. It's not a trend. It's not a percentage of the population. It's individuals. So you probably know a lot of individual foreigners that are idiots and they do a lot of it. But that's not. But I bet you don't know the head of a Chinese mining company or you know,
Well,
a Korean guy that opened, you know, 5 factories. Like, you don't know that. You know?
Right, but we're talking as far as Westerners go. We're talking in the perspective of...
I bet you don't know an American who opened 5 factories, you know.
Correct. We're talking in the viewing of the eyes of a, you know, white European male.
And the other one that you said about the mining concession getting ripped off. Let me ask you a question. Where do you think minerals and natural resources are? Are they A, in Anglo-Saxon countries with rule of law?
Yeah, right.
Or are they in Africa, Latin America? You know, so again, are you telling me that going in Mozambique, you're going to have less problems than you are doing
No,
it
it's
here?
probably maybe worse.
The copper mines they found in northern Congo.
Yes.
You're right. Copper mine, northern Congo. You could see. You read the article, it blows your mind. And now I want to tell you about the French, because I don't know if your embassy has this, but I'm sure it has. As a French, if I want to open a big company here, I can go to my embassy and they give me advice. Okay. Well, a few years ago there was a French company. They leased land in the north and they leveled the land. They planted the trees. But before this, the government here kicked out inhabitants, and then NGOs made problems, and the government literally stole. So the French company said, okay, we give it back, but what about reinvestment? Ah, no. And as a result, if you want to open a big company, if you go to the French embassy, they tell you no, but if you do, you are on your own.
Yeah.
In the US, you have also this kind of
I don't know.
office you can go and ask?
No, I don't think we
Don't
do.
know. Maybe Chamber of Commerce.
How would...
Chamber of Commerce, that's it.
Now, with all these Chinese people investing in the condo market in Cambodia, do you think it's a viable option for people from the West to do the same thing?
Well,
no, wait, the Chinese, they buy their citizenship here. The Chinese can.
Yeah, well, that's a separate issue. As far as buying condos in Phnom Penh goes, number one, if it's a long-term investment, I think it's a good one because, as I said, the economic fundamentals are there. The fundamentals are there. It means that if the price is too high, it's just going to revert to some normal price, some rational price. A lot of people saying there's oversupply, but when they say that, they're also counting expected completions, the number of condos that are expected to be completed this year, which they never completed on time. So it might be 18 months, 2 years before those are on the market. So definitely there's an opportunity to buy condos, make money with it. You're no different than the French people. However, that for a U.S. investor, there's a little bit less of an incentive because you're not desperate to get your money out of the United States, and you're not desperate to get your money in dollars because it's already in dollars.
You're already in dollars.
Are you acquainted with that tower in Ocean Boulevard?
The Gold Tower 42.
Yes.
Right. I mean, the Gold Tower 42 to me is the epitome of the Cambodian real estate market.
Is it residential or office?
No, it's office.
Yeah, you see, I don't know about that. I'm fairly certain that there's
but
a
the French investors, they were robbed. You know that tower at the corner?
Yeah.
That's the one. And as the French, they were robbed of their investment. Like this. No, you cannot.
Yeah, the commercial sector there's a massive glut of office space.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why I'm not even looking at that. And also the Chinese aren't investing in that. They're building them, but they're not investing in them. And the money, you got to remember, the companies that build these things make the money off of building them. That's where they get their money.
Right, well, that's the whole idea.
Which is also why you have ghost towns, in China and stuff like that. But it's no different. The government loaning these guys money and creating this project to build a ghost town in Oros is simply like an economic stimulus program, just
right.
like when George Bush sent us all a check for $350.
Yeah, the shovel-ready jobs with Obama, right.
It's almost
cash
like
for clunkers.
Yeah, and you being Italian, you know about no work, no show jobs.
Right, of course.
It's just like that.
Many investors tell me that in Cambodia, it is not a bubble, but it's all a mirage. And the reason why they say this is because Cambodia is more or less a passing through country. It's a bit landlocked. You have one port. You have no highways. Right, the highways are abysmal. There is no infrastructure for a railroad.
That's all changing, though. I mean, China's building. They're going to have the railroad. They're going to have the highway.
They're saying it. But there still hasn't been very little movement. And They started the railroad up again a couple months ago, and what has happened? Wait,
No, but
wait.
this is because of the conflict in Vietnam. The railroad must.
Okay, but they started the railroad. They started up again. There was big talks. This is going back 6 months ago. Last month, guess what? It shut down again.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, but you know why?
Yeah.
Because this coincides with what's happening in the southern Chinese Sea with the islands. This is linked, I am sure. It's
Oh
linked.
yeah. Here's the other thing: is now they want to integrate
I can't
Asian.
comment on that.
They want to integrate Asian. They want to integrate Cambodia with the whole Asian economy. Create pretty much a Southeast Asian EU. Let's call it what it is.
Because that's working out so well in Europe.
Right, but that's what's happening.
Yes,
Right.
this is what they hope to achieve. But
This is what they're hoping to achieve. It's going to be mega regions. This is, Southeast Asia will be a mega region. The EU will be a mega region. North America, Mexico, United States, Canada, mega region. So you see this massive push for not so much borders, but regional borders.
Yeah, but the difference is in Europe you have all Christians. Here you have Buddhists, you have Muslims.
We're not going to get into.
You have communists, communists
Yeah,
and not.
and this will slow the process. So we are of 40 years away.
Well, also Western Europe, you've only got about 3 languages,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you got German, French,
Yeah, that's it.
you know, Spanish and Italian, but
we dominate the European Union. That's
Yeah.
perfect. The proof is today. Who decided the future of Europe today? Italy, Germany, and France. We dictated. We will do this, and you follow. End of the story. So yeah.
Right. So again, you know, you want to see these massive railway, projects and things like that. There's not even a wastewater treatment plant in Cambodia, and it's not even on the fucking books to build a wastewater treatment plant in this country.
but that doesn't necessarily affect you for investing, though.
Okay, yeah, true. It doesn't affect money.
No.
No.
No, I mean, you know, you can point at any number of things that are missing, but I'm telling you, you don't have the power outages anymore.
No.
You know,
What about the
cell
price of electricity?
Cell phone is reasonably good now. You know the
no, it's not
connection
too bad.
speeds, You know
Even the electricity in Phnom Penh.
Wi-Fi is great.
Because you have been living here for 12 years.
Yeah.
Me 13. And I tell you, when I came, power failure.
Every day.
I live
Every day.
with 111. It was daily.
every day, and if you're 13 years, then you remember when internet was $5 an hour.
No, this I had luck, but I remember when it stopped every now and then, and you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was $5 an hour to use the internet.
But I remember the girls at $3 an hour.
Okay. What about? I'm recording. We're not going to talk about women.
Yes.
Okay. What about the mere fact of the price of electricity? That Cambodia is not they're not independent. They're very dependent on Vietnam still. If China keeps investing in Cambodia, it's going to piss Vietnam off even furthermore. And Cambodia, I still say, is far more dependent on Vietnam for getting things done than it is with China, just for the mere fact that they're close to each other.
Yeah, for the time being, yes.
Well, yeah, because we'll see what happens moving forward. I mean, obviously, China's much richer than Vietnam. You know, it's really interesting. Vietnam's the third trade total as far as total economic activity. Vietnam is third with China, with Cambodia.
Right.
China's number 1 and Vietnam's number 3. And the
Who's number
difference,
2?
Thailand.
Okay.
But the difference is like I can't remember now. It's like
minuscule.
100%. No, not 100%. 100 times.
Okay, well,
It's
wait.
like- it's
What
like-
is it though? Is it
I can't remember the
construction?
number off the top of my head, but
the Cambodia gets its food and electricity from Vietnam. That's a fact.
I remember in 2009 when they first had the rise of the Vietnamese products in Cambodia. A think tank in the States sent me here to do an economic report on the rise of because prior to, and you've been here a long time, when you came here, the toothpaste, the shampoo, everything was Thailand. No, 13 years, everything was Thailand. Everything was Thailand. Suddenly, 2008, 2009, we started seeing things from Vietnam.
Well,
for the
that's
first
a
time.
fact. Because now remember the fact is the shop where I went, the plastic and everything made in Thailand.
Yeah.
And now the majority has shifted from Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you seem to-
and so I came here to do a report on the rise of the Vietnamese economy in Cambodia. Now, at that time, 2009, the total volume of all economic activity between Vietnam and Cambodia, China did 5 projects that year. Each project on its own was more than the total volume of trade and economic activity with Vietnam. I mean, that's how much bigger it is. And now it's even bigger than that. Now it's a multiple of what it was in 2009.
Oh, but the Chinese, you see me, I tell you, now just a bracket about France. We have villas, you know, very expensive villas. My father has one for sale, by the way, 1 million for my uncle, but that's all. And you know what? The Russians, they have stopped buying, and the Arabs, somehow they buy less for the last 2 years. But you know who saves the market? The Chinese. Because if you go to the French Riviera, the big states are bought by Chinese.
Yeah.
And they are saving us, really, they are saving us, to the point that right now in France, when you borrow money from a bank, it's 0.39%. Imagine it's lower than low. And this is thanks to the Chinese, they pour the money. So I believe the Chinese, well, they are the next USA, and voilà. So Vietnam may not be able to compete.
Yeah, no, Vietnam will not. And Cambodia, you know, because one of the reasons Cambodia and China have historically had relations has mainly been because Cambodia's, you know, they're sandwiched between Thailand and Vietnam. They needed somebody to back them up, right? And now, and you figure that Vietnam and China are on the outs always. Now the South China Sea situation is, you know, conflating that. So this drives Cambodia more towards China. Also, Cambodia and the U.S. have never had a very close relationship.
No, well, we don't like them.
Other than during the Lon Nol regime.
Not to mention that the governments of China and Cambodia, they understand each other. While Barack Obama really made...
Obama does not like Khmer people.
And
we've established
I
that.
don't know about that.
He's kicked them out.
I don't know about that, but...
But look, Mickey Mouse...
Well, we can, you know, talking about as far as American and Cambodian relations, you know, I remember what did Kissinger say, I think it was during the Nixon tape or something, as far as what he thinks of Khmer people, and he just had a very negative, pessimistic view.
First of all, nobody in America knew what a Khmer person was at that time. So, I mean, any of the
Kissinger knew.
Kissinger hated Khmer. Kissinger didn't know Cambodia exists.
Right.
Come on, man. It's ridiculous. I remember seeing pictures of the killing fields when I was a kid in the magazine, and we thought it was Vietnam.
Yeah, right.
And why wouldn't we have? We've been seeing pictures of Vietnam for 10 years.
Well, also the other thing is...
And when Vietnam happened, nobody knew what Vietnam was. Nobody knew what even that was. So
even prior to moving here, I thought Khmers were going to be Oriental, and then I got here. Oh wow, they look like they're from India. Like, you know, so even I had, you know,
no, but even nowadays,
ignorance
your
moving
average
here.
French, he doesn't know much about Cambodia. Your average French, he knows what Angkor Wat, and that's it. He could not even say.
See, now in America, we don't know Angkor Wat, we know Pol Pot. It's the opposite in the United States. You know, the first thing you say to an American, oh, Cambodia, the first thing you're going to say, oh yeah, that's Pol Pot. They're not going to say.
It's amazing because
they're not going to say Angkor Wat. You know. Well, anyway, not bad. Good view. Good take on the market, real estate market. Yeah. I was thinking about buying an apartment here, but my concern would be the upcoming election, and then they can just change laws overnight as far as foreign nationals go.
That's possible.
Ask Douglas to give you the email of Arlene. She really searched in depth. She really wanted to buy an apartment as an investment. And she was going to buy, and suddenly said, okay, did you buy it? And she said, oh, no. And she briefly explained to me why, but I cannot recollect exactly. But if she doesn't buy, I don't buy it. And anyway, the French embassy will tell you, sir, you will lose your money.
I guess I think I told you last week or earlier this week, if you're going to do, it would have to be a short sale, quick flip investment. It couldn't be a long-term thing.
An opportunity, I think, to make money is going to be to wait till the run-up to the commune elections. It would be a really good time to buy.
That's what my father said,
too. There's going to be a lot of people with cold feet. And,
that would be the time to
buy. And no matter what, it's going to go up after that. You know that. It has to look. These apartments have a certain value, right? They do have a value, whatever that value is. It's not zero, right? It may not be $80,000. It might be $45,000.
Yeah, it's about 40. Yeah.
You know, so we're going to see it revert to that before the commune elections, and then it's going to go up again.
So you think that would be a good time to?
That would be a really good time to buy.
That's what I'm thinking. If I'm here, I would do it then.
It would make no sense for the government to nationalize the apartments, you know, to steal them from the apartment. Well, why? And do what with them?
You're just going to crash your own economy. Yeah, but again, we're talking about Cambodians.
No,
okay? Let's not rule that out.
You know, I've heard of people in Vietnam and Philippines. I've known people who owned a business that became successful. They walked in one day, the cops were there and said, "This is ours now." The country basically took over their business. They're making money. Nobody's going to take over your a condo, what are they going to do with it? They can't sell it to anybody because nobody's allowed to buy it then.
But you know where to buy land? I went to France last month to visit my family. My Jewish friends, they bought land in Israel, in the south near Eilat and Beersheba, the desert, And I remember on Skype telling them, but you are insane, it's a desert. But now I saw on TV, just now, a few days ago, that Israel is going to expand in the Negev, you know what? I am sure they will make a huge profit in the months to come. I am sure. So finally, they had a good idea.
Look, as far as, you see what Thailand's done as far as kicking foreign nationals out and, visa restrictions, so on and so forth. Their economy has taken a bit of a hit because of doing that. But you're spiting your own nose. What is that term called?
Cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Right, and that I see a lot of countries doing that, and including America at this point with Trump coming along, is that they don't care what the ramifications are. Do something about it, fix this problem, we don't care what the issues. The Brexit is another perfect example. They didn't care whatsoever about what the economic ramifications are. Fix the fucking problem, we want to get this straightened out.
Well, I don't know that the Thai economy is that dependent on the foreigners that are there.
I've heard 1/3 of it.
Yeah.
Or tourism, including foreigners.
Yeah, I mean, visiting countries. Now you're talking about different things. You're talking about tourism, or you're talking about companies. And I don't know that lots of companies have been kicked out. You really need to sit down, do an analysis, and tell me how many companies got kicked out, and whether or not that caused GDP to take a hit. And then you got to look at how many tourists have been kicked out, because I don't know that it's that many, and whether or not that caused tourism to take a hit.
Okay.
The bombings last week caused tourism to take a hit, but that's somebody's fault. The government is clearly cracking down on visas, which will generally impact tourism, except that Thai tourism historically always rebounds instantly. I mean, I landed, I was 2011, I needed to go to Bangkok to file an economic report that I was doing in Malaysia. And the day that I bought my ticket, they had the standoff between the red shirts and the black shirts on Siloam. And the government gave the ultimatum and said, if by midnight tonight, you don't put, we're going to go in with guns. And I was scheduled to arrive the day after that, the day after the ultimatum. That night, they fought, people were killed, people died in the street, there was shooting, looting, whatever. No looting, but shooting and whatever, burning. I arrived the next morning, and I went to my favorite cafe on Siloam and sat and read a newspaper and drank coffee.
Yes.
And nobody was even talking about it.
Yeah, that's Thailand, true.
It's Thailand. Oh my God. And the tourism always comes back because, again, like I said to you about moving your factory, okay, you don't want to move it to Cambodia, where are you going to go? Same thing winds up happening with tourism. Where are you going to go for your tourism? Are you going to go to Indonesia?
No.
You're going to get to East Timor?
Yeah, do you know why I believe Thailand rebounds? Because I don't know about you in the USA, but in France, when you watch TV, you never see visit Cambodia, visit Vietnam.
Of course.
But every day you have at least one advertisement, visit Thailand, and you see.
It is, in all honesty, I've never
Thailand's
seen.
brilliant at advertising.
I can't believe how amazing it is. It really. When I went to Thailand, I go, wow, this really is paradise on earth. I cannot believe how.
Well, except that it's impossible to make a dollar.
Right. Well, for a holiday, you just go from border from, let's just say, Point Pet to Anna Paret, and it's like, oh my, it's a day and night difference. One's a dust
bowl. And Phuket is like the worst part of Thailand, and it's still better. Yeah, I know.
So and
it's a shock when you cross the border.
It's a 30-year, one looks.
And also, as soon as you get to Rani Phuket, you have a nice brand new highway that runs all the way to Bangkok.
You have a 7-Eleven.
But you remember 12 years ago, you must have crossed Point Pet. The road was lined with flowers.
Yeah.
And then I crossed at Doen.
It was like stepping into hell. It was like stepping into hell.
Still is.
Doen Lem is the crossing point between Point Pet and the south, Doen Lem. D-A-U-N, Lem, this I cannot write. I swear to God. It was like from France going to some fourth world.
Were you going to say Sicily? You weren't going to say Sicily, were you?
Sorry?
You weren't going to say it was like crossing from France to Sicily.
No.
You weren't, right?
No.
You're not going to insult Sicily. Okay.
No. I am Italian. Well, quarter. No, Sicily is good.
But you know, when I first saw Boy Pet, the first thing that came to my mind was the movie Idiocracy fucked, what was it, Mad Max. That's what it looked like to me.
No, not well.
That's what it reminds me of Mad Max Boy Pet. You got to see the pictures I have of Boy Pet. But you know, it's a massive difference between the two, and I do think the Thais do that on purpose. That they build up their, you know, just to throw it in
the same way, it's no mistake that Ellis Island looks like a castle.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You know, that wasn't by accident.
Yeah.
It's like, let's build the biggest, most beautiful castle, and then when they get here, they're going to go, wow, America's so rich.
Yeah,
great.
right.
And now you land in JFK, and you think, what the?
Yeah, you landed in a third world shit.
And when I fly home from here, I always fly through, frequently I fly through Seoul. Seoul's the most modern.
I feel I am. Oh Lord.